Hello, my name is Braylon Beaver. I'm a behavior specialist that works at the Bucks division of Easter Seals, and with me is...
Hi guys, I'm Megan Guthrie. I'm the Education Department Lead at the EI Center in Philadelphia with Easter Seals.
And we're going to talk about error correction procedure. Just as a disclaimer, we are working on multiple trainings, and so it's my preference that you would first watch the Introduction to Verbal Behavior, Variable Ratio training, operant training, and especially the errorless teaching training before watching this video. The errorless teaching procedure is very close to this one. So if you've already watched that one, you're going to know what's going on for this video. Okay, so in a verbal behavior program, you're going to use this procedure when a child makes an error. Let me move our pictures so you can see it. You're going to complete this step to reteach the correct skill. A very big component of verbal behavior is that we do not want children to practice errors. So in order to ensure that they're not practicing errors, we use this correction procedure. When you do probes, you should be ready to use this procedure because we are giving them the independence to answer incorrectly. And then the other time that this is probably going to happen is when you're going through a known skill. They might err on that skill, in which case you need to do this error correction procedure. All right, before we get started, this is just a refresher on the prompt hierarchy. Again, I love this visual. So it goes top to bottom. Bottom is the most invasive, so the highest prompt. When I say a higher prompt, this is what I mean, is moving down this ladder to a more extreme and invasive prompt. But what's great about the VB program is you're kind of already on the prompt hierarchy. So for example, if you're doing a listener response, you're giving them a verbal instruction, which is right here. So naturally, the next step down is to do a gestural prompt / modeling. So for example, if my prompt was to touch car and it's not happening, right? The next prompt would be for me to either point to the card or to touch it myself, gestural or modeling, right? And then if you were to do an imitation question, you are already modeling, which is why the next prompt is a partial physical prompt. Anyway, any questions, anything to add, Megan?
No, I think just using the prompt hierarchy and really knowing it forwards and backwards helps decrease challenging behavior when you are running trials.
Absolutely. And I will say, I think there is a lot of finesse between partial prompt and full physical prompt that I would love for us to explore more. I don't love it when, the child is like just your puppet and you just take their hand and you're like, full physical prompt. That shouldn't be our go-to. I need to too learn the finesse of like, well, yeah, but what if 3/4 of the way down, I let go, and now I made it more partial. I do know there's a place for the full physical prompt. But I would love for us to see a little bit more finesse in between the full and partial. Okay, so here's our sequence. So, and go up here. Okay, so you had an error. Oh no, panic. What do we do? So you're gonna stop, take a deep breath, stop what you're doing. Do not reshuffle the cards, okay? You're gonna leave everything the way it is. And you are going to prompt. So that's that higher, more intrusive level of prompting to make sure that the child responds correctly. Then you're going to transfer that skill. So you're going to ease up a little bit, but ensure that they still get it correct. You're going to distract. And you're going to then check. You're going to bring it back and hopefully use that same level as the transfer. If this looks familiar, it's the exact same as the errorless teaching procedure. Okay, the only difference is there's an error at the beginning of it. Okay, so me and Megan are going to demo it. Let me see. I am going to, I kind of like this. So here's the deal. The skill that I'm teaching Megan is an interverbal skill, and it's vroom vroom says a car. Now, you'll notice I have a picture of a car, and Megan already knows as an LR, or as a TACT, when I ask her, what is this? She says car. So I already have that in my wheelhouse to use. Okay? So here we go. Megan, you ready to air? Vroom vroom says
Chicken?
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. Stop. Vroom vroom says a
Car.
Vroom vroom says
Car.
All right, Megan, what is this?
Corn.
All right. Can you clap your hands for me? Nice job. Vroom vroom says
Car.
Nice. Okay. So I used 2 different prompts there. I am tricky that way. You have the visual prompt of the picture of the car that I knew she would say car to. And then I also used a partial echoic prompt of just starting her off in that right direction of cup. Because I didn't want to, there's no real way to pull back from using a picture. You can't like flash it and be like, there. Just got a brief glimpse of the car. That's not how this works. So you can mix and match which prompts to use. The key is, needs to be errorless, right? She can't keep making errors as we go down this. We're going to get stuck in a cycle, right? And we don't want to teach errors. So anyway, that is our example. Now, let's talk about some details here that you're probably thinking in your mind. And let me figure out how to get our faces where you don't need it. Okay. What if there's an error on the distractor? So what if in that sequence, let me see, what did I use it? Oh, I said clap your hands as the distractor. What if she erred on that? Oh no, right? Oh no, now I have 2 errors that I'm trying to deal with. So key is, do not panic, number 1. Number 2, you can work in that second error as the distractors. So as you can see here, I wrote out the sequence. Okay, so you were on the right path, and you can see this is the error on the distraction. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 more distractors to prompt for this second error. And then I'm going to check on the target, and that's the distractor for the known, and then I'm going to check on the known. Now, obviously, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 tasks that I'm giving a student. And a lot of our students would be walking away from the table at that point if you didn't have reinforcement in between it, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about keeping your VR low on this, but if necessary, break it up during the prompts. Because the prompts is the time that you 100% know that child will get this right. So I would break it up during the prompts. If you need to, break it up during the transfers as well. But make sure that you're breaking it up not during the times that they err. All right? Okay. We're going to give you a little bit of an example on this. Let me see. So for the first target, I was teaching Megan to say her name. So the response is, what is your name? It's supposed to be Megan. All right. And then the second one is, we're going to do this as a TACT. This is my fabulous car picture. So when I asked Megan, what is this? she's supposed to say car, and that should be a known, right? But life isn't perfect. So, are we ready? Okay, our first error. What's your name?
Pizza.
What's your name? Megan.
Megan.
What's your name?
Megan.
What's this?
Chair.
Ooh. What's this? Car.
Car.
What's this?
Car.
All right. What's your name?
Megan.
All right. What's your name? Oh, goodness. Ha! What is this?
Car.
There you go. And as you can see, it's a hard process. I was close. I was so close. Anyway, if anything else, you need to laugh during your VB trainings. It's a good thing. It's cathartic. All right. What happens if there's an error on the transfer? So nobody's perfect. There shouldn't be an error when you pull back the prompt, but there can be. Life is life. So in that sequence, just like before, you're going to stop and reset. So even though you already reset once, you're going to stop and reset a second time. So you did a prompt. We tried a transfer. They errored again. Okay. You're going to prompt again. You're going to transfer. Make sure it's correct this time. So you might be using a different, you might use a different prompt at that point or a stronger one. You're going to distract and you're going to check. Now, if the errors continue or you just cannot pull back that stronger, higher prompt, you might need to teach this errorlessly at a higher level more frequently. Okay? All right. So how do I keep my VR low? This sequence intimidates me when you're talking about a VR. What about those kids where you have a 1-to-1 ratio to think about? So you can break up and use reinforcement between these sequences. Like I said, try to do it in between the prompts and transfers if needed. Also, the good thing is the distractors are supposed to be knowns, so that's another opportunity to reinforce. So I have this sequence here. It is not the end-all be-all. This is an example. So you have an error. So you stopped. You're not going to reinforce the error. You can't do that. You're going to prompt, get it right, reinforce. Transfer, give them a little bit more independence, don't need to reinforce. Distract, it's a known, they get it right, reinforce. You're going to reinforce again for no work, and then you're going to check and reinforce. So this VR is, I think it's close. I think it's like 1.5 to 1. But like I said, you can kind of see how you can keep your VR low and still need to do this. Now, it's a lot of keep track in your mind. I will give you that much. But when you get into the flow of it, it really does become easier. All right. Megan, do you have anything to add?
No, I think it's just when you're doing this, because there's a lot of steps to it, it's very similar to errorless, but there's like an additional step, something else that you have to remember. Posting it wherever you can visibly see it, especially if you're training other staff members or support staff members, and you have a lot of people in and out of your classroom, just having it visible seems, it always helped me. It could be pretty helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in the moment. I've always felt like there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of like, I got to keep this going, but I got to be, but we got to reinforce, but we got to do this. Where am I in this process? In that moment, it really does help to be like, I'm looking at, oh, I forgot that one. This is the next step. Let's go. Because nobody's perfect. Anyway, okay. So we are going to watch this video. It's a little bit of a demo. for this in real time. All right, Megan, let me know if you can hear the sound. Perfect.
Sometimes a child will respond incorrectly even when it is not a new target, and you need to be ready for this. If a child begins to emit an incorrect response, do not allow them to complete it if possible. That means you can block the incorrect response. Simply prompt as soon as you see them starting to get it wrong and show them the correct response. A child will get nothing out of answering things incorrectly except learning to be wrong. So, after your learner has answered incorrectly, represent the SD simultaneously with a prompt to make sure they get it right.
Good job. What's this? A cup.
Then, use your transfer trial to fade out the prompt.
What is it?
Yep.
Good for you.
Do a distractor trial.
Do this?
Come back to the SD as a test to see if they've got it.
Excellent. What's this?
Yeah.
Good. Turn it upside down.
Did they take your prompt?
Give me the cup.
That means, was your prompt effective enough to teach them to get it right on their own?
All right. So I do have some homework that is very, very similar to the one that is on my errorless teaching. So if this is your experience with error correction, or if you have, not done this very recently, it is the best way to learn is to practice. So grab a friend, grab a coworker, grab some random stuff that you find around the house, and just go through it a few times. And like Megan said, I always found that like having the visual of it, even if it's just on a Post-it note you wrote down, prompt, transfer, distractor, check, that helps. And also, if you're going to use the visual aid, though, once you get familiar with it, I would flip it over just to kind of see if you can remember it that way as well. And don't be afraid to laugh at your mistakes, because it is very much of a difficult process. And so I remember laughing and being frustrated multiple times. Thank you so much. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask your BSC or Megan. We would be more than happy to answer your questions on this topic. Thank you so much.